about what the role of the government is, providing an enabling environment for investors to come in.
Yes. So when you look at the entire African continent,
No, let's. No, wait.
No,
okay.
he's already.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's continue.
Yeah, I'm good.
Rolling.
Continue.
Okay. Go ahead.
So the role of every government in the entire African continent is to create an enabling environment for private sector to be able to invest, for enterprises, especially non-state actors, to be able to leverage on opportunities to drive transformation within the scope of the entire national agenda. And if you take, for example, Kenya, you take Vision 2030, you take the Climate Change Paris Agreement, and you take the Big Four, and even if you take the Constitution, the aspects of national development are all captured. But what government needs to do is it develop policy, but it's not government that implements policy. It's not government that have to measure and report back on that policy. It is non-state actors. And this is enshrined in Goal 17 of the Sustainable Development Goals, inclusive partnerships. It is also enshrined in Section 5 of the Paris Climate Change Agreement that the state and non-state actors must be able to work together to be able to build climate resilience and address these challenges of food insecurity, of water insecurity, and put prosperity on the cockpit and poverty on the run. When you put it in the context of Kenya today, we are talking about food insecurity. It is not necessarily government to be able to address food insecurity per se, but it is government and non-state actors that are supposed to jointly address that. So what government does, for example, the clean energy policy called the feed-in tariffs, is then to ensure that it can trigger incentives so that clean energy can be decentralized into local areas so that the private sector can create enterprises and be able to utilize opportunities that are created by this clean energy, and by then develop solar dryers, develop water tanks for water harvesting, and have incentives like tax rebates that can then also spur opportunity for people to be able to venture into those business. That you will be creating employment because youth can even venture into it to be able to start developing solar dryers, solar power irrigation. Because the feed-in tariff is actually one of the best policies which actually provide incentives and rebates for those who are venturing into that business. So the role of government in this case is to ensure that the enabling environment is there. And it is therefore the non-state actors, this includes you and me, it includes the youth, it includes the private sector, it includes each and everyone to be able then to benefit from these excellent policies to seize these opportunities that do exist. If you just take food, I said Kenya is losing food in the form of post-harvest losses worth 500 million. That's 50 billion Kenyan shillings. That's 50 billion Kenyan shillings sector in a sector that can be tapped into. That's per year. That can be tapped into by young people, but all they need incentives in finance. For example, what if government was able to incentivize cooperatives that if you are to give a loan with low interest rates to someone who is taking that loan to buy a solar dryer, then at the end of the year they could have some incentives or tax rebates. What if that person who utilized that solar dryer to dry his or her vegetables can be able to have a market that someone buys it knowing that it was processed using a solar dryer rather than using approaches that were destroying the environment. So it's all about these incentives, and I think this is where the government really needs to ensure that the policies that are already there need then to be triggered so that the incentives in these policies can go down to trigger the environment for investors to be able to come in and drive and put in place structures and systems that will generate the more opportunities in terms of business, but help solve and build climate resilience for the country.